finish with your workshop, I'm going to walk you through the uncontrolled development that can happen in resorts. As you can see in the picture, this doesn't look very nice. You've got the tourism infrastructure just there, like some bars and things like that, but you've got a lot of rubbish in the picture on the side and people sitting there, and it looks as if they're living in little huts on the beach. So now let's take a look what uncontrolled development can actually happen in resorts. The problem is that when you have uncontrolled development, you obviously don't look at what buildings can fit into the area. Do they actually go with the character of the area and the scale of the surroundings? So you get very ugly buildings that spoil the environment visually. They might be built on the cheap, they can be of poor quality. They are just sprawled out along the coast or along other areas, so there isn't really real planning that has gone into developing those resorts. The other thing is, if you think of poor quality holiday homes, you get a lot of motels as well, as they can just open them up and they spoil the scenery. You have unsightly camping and caravan sites. Obviously the infrastructure is inadequate, so you've got a lot of development happening, no one is looking after it, but no one obviously is planning the infrastructure, so the roads, the hotels or the resorts or everything else surrounding the resort, such as shops or hotels and restaurants, are not adequate for what is there. This is obviously not very nice to look at, and the resorts lose their competitiveness, which means that people don't come anymore, they degrade, and people go to other resorts where it's much nicer and where a lot more thought has gone into building them. The target group changes to mass market, and probably cheaper holidays are being offered, so people who you don't really want in your area are coming, and there is a decline in standard services, because if you pay lesser money, you don't expect a lot of service, a lot of standard. So if you look back at a lot of the resorts in Greece or Spain, this is what has happened, and this is why a lot of them are now trying to remarket themselves. In order to reduce those drawbacks, like disordered, uncontrolled development of tourist resorts and tourist regions, there is something that's called integrated resorts. Okay, and it's built on new sites. There are no constraints of other developments, so they take a bit of area where you can build. You're not building around other things and making it look awful and just plonked in the middle of of another development. They're extensively planned, so which means people have looked at the long-term benefits of those resorts, and they're making sure that they're long-term benefits and that they fit in with the environment, and that they look the way they're supposed to look. They're of high quality, and that the service that's offered is adequate. It ensures that the necessary facilities are provided, so that everything the tourists need, the infrastructure is there, and they've got the correct scale and character, as I just mentioned before. Another thing what they're part of a tourism development area, so this shows you that people actually have thought of what to do and how to develop them, so that again they fit in with what the area is supposed to look like. Then they may be based on a hotel or holiday village, so actually you have this area where everything is there. You've got shops there. If you think about some of the Club Med resorts, for example, or of the resorts other tour operators are offering, there are a lot of holiday villages there, and or hotel resorts. Again, if you think of a lot of places, what they're doing, and I think I told you about when I went to Greece, that the place we stayed of the island, and they also use a lot of local produce and a lot of environmental friendly things like solar panels and alternative energy sources. And obviously it supports a wider range of recreation and entertainment, so it's not confined to its area, but also looks at how can we include other stakeholders and other activities that are maybe a bit outside. So again, when you go somewhere and you've got a local guide, but it's being sold by your by the company you might have gone on holiday with, then it's helps the local community as well. Then there's another way to develop a resort, which is called catalytic development. Okay, this means that there were initial activities to attract people. They were already in the area, and the development, those activities actually attract developers, and that means that those resorts complement the original activity. So if there was a natural attraction, or if there was an attraction, and then the resorts are being developed, so they're being developed because of this attraction, or maybe because there are certain activities. So we've got eco resorts, for example, and they were developed for the reason of something else already being there. So this means it's a supplementary development. It's grafted into the existing developments that's already there, and it's very diverse and not as concentrated. The other thing is that when developers look at resorts, they have to look at new market opportunities. If you think back to Butler's life cycle, there obviously the issue of decline and stagnation in the market with resorts especially. And again, if you think back to seaside resorts, they had a massive decline in the 80s or 90s. The reason being that the infrastructure hadn't been updated, that people wanted to go to Spain or Greece or France or Italy and not stay in the UK where the weather wasn't that nice. So obviously those resorts and any other resorts had to look at rejuvenating the market in order to attract visitors again, a different visitor market. And in order to do this, they had to obviously research what people are doing, how are people going on holiday at the moment. So, they had to offer other products, like weekend breaks, for example. So don't just put people in there for a week or two, but, rely on other people as well, someone who only comes for a weekend. Self-catering options. People don't just want all-inclusive, they want to be able to have the opportunity to maybe go out for dinner or cook for themselves as well. Sophisticated entertainment and recreation, don't make it too cheesy. Not everyone wants this, even though you're going to a resort, doesn't have to mean that all you want is cheesy entertainment. Look at your business customers. Business people might want to, if you think about seaside resorts, for example, a lot of the political parties, for example, they go there and they have their Labour or Conservative Party or Lib Dem conference in Bournemouth or Brighton or places like that. Look at, especially out of season, when I used to work for the Borough Council, my colleague used to organise all the events for them and all the conferences. And a lot of the conferences happen out of season. They happen in, October, November, December. They happen in the winter. And if you have a resort, if you have a seaside resort, this is a great thing for you to do. I went to a conference just before Easter last year, and that was, or this year actually, that was, great. Weather was not that nice, but the hotels have business rates, and there's certain kind of tourists that are coming to the resort because business tourists, even though it's a conference, they might want to go out for dinner, for drinks, see some of the attractions because they've got some time on their hands. And the other thing is the out-of-season training educational program, which sort of comes in with the conferences. So away days, team building days, stuff like that can be implemented customer base, and also it will guarantee you a certain amount of low season occupancy. The other thing you have to nowadays obviously think about is the environment. So what can you do? You know, apart from obviously using, I don't know, solar panels and, you know, reducing your food miles, things like that, doing the recycling. There's a lot of resource, and they've got this a lot in Germany. A lot of the areas are pedestrianised so that people don't drive right to the beach, for example, in their cars, so that they actually have to park somewhere else and then they have to walk down, which is nice because it gives you a bit of exercise as well, but also means that you don't, you know, park your car, or everyone parks their cars right at the seafront. Also take, you know, the concentration of people away from one area, spread them out a bit. So have new focal points like the regeneration of marinas. When I lived in Eastbourne, and also they do the same thing in Brighton, they regenerated the whole marina. So, you know, they've got restaurants there, people are living there as well, but this is another area where you can go to rather than just concentrate on one area. Restore historical features, you know, I don't know, along the seaside they've got a lot of watchtowers. If you look at, you know, castles, any other landmarks, that's what people go to, that's what people attracts to certain areas. And then have car parks, you know, concealed car parks, and you'd have people parking somewhere and then they have to walk to the area. So that means, you know, relates back to the pedestrianisation of the areas.